But the problem is how you separate, because oftentimes assistance to go inside Burma has often been utilized by the leaders, by the militaries, people, not for the goodness of the population at large. Look at Nagis. Certainly it has benefited the population at large, but the government took most of the benefit.
That's right. Well, one is the PR benefit. Thai Kingdom donated lots of humanitarian packages, for the Nagis victim, and some of the Burmese generals are putting their name as if they were the real donors. They're trying to win popular support by putting their names, as donors. That's just one thing. And also the exchange rate is so screwed up. So if you give international assistance directly to the Burmese regime, they benefit. The official exchange rate between the Burmese currency Chad and the US dollar is, $1 is 6.5 Chad, but that's the official rate. Yes. The black market, right. The universal rate is about 1,000 Chad. And so, you can figure out what percentage, there is there. The Burmese generals use the official exchange rate to show how much money is coming in, either in terms of gas and oil revenues inflow to the country, or how much aid is coming in. They use the official rate to calculate how much money the country is receiving. So compare 6.5 Chad to a dollar of official rate to 1,000 Chad to a dollar, and they take the difference. See, that's how they benefit materially, public relations. So, but there are ways to directly work with the Burmese people, and also I think there are NGOs working in the country. The only word of caution that I would sound is that the NGOs are not the solution, not the panacea. No society can be fed by outside NGOs, World Food Program or UNDP, however well-intentioned these.
How about local NGO, yes. Civil society movement? Some has argued that post-Nagis has assist in creation some of these extra NGO, Burmese style. Local NGO, civil society movement, some has argued that post-Nagis has assist in creation some of these extra NGO, Burmese style.
The high-profile Burmese NGOs are clearly operating with the regime's blessing. These are local NGOs, something like, say, Egress. Yeah. That's an organization that is best known among the local NGOs. Yeah. And Egress is one of the very few officially registered organization that operates openly, providing causes in democratization, or delivering aid packages in the Delta region among the Nagis victims. But Egress is also a proxy organization because Egress reports directly to the Burmese intelligence organization. Yeah, but there are monks networks, Burmese monks networks. They're not registered. They don't have the offices, across the country. So, from outside looking in, if you're say Western or outside person, a donor government that wants to provide aid, you will not see these organizations because they do not exist as organizations. These are informal networks. They operate under the radar. As soon as a network becomes well known and organized, unless that organization submits themselves to the junta would just shut it down. And this involves not just providing food to the sick people or needy people, but there's a funeral association in Burma that is run by a medically trained, basically a medical doctor who was also a famous Burmese actor. But he gave up his medical profession as well as his acting profession, and he focuses energies on basically making sure that the dead get proper burial. Sometimes families cannot afford to bury their own loved ones when they die. So this organization stepped in using volunteers across the country to, you phone them up and say like, if your dad dies or like your mother dies or sister dies, say like we cannot afford to bury our loved one, so they come and help you, and even that organization, the Burmese junta is such, such paranoid crowd that they would attempt to block an organization that attempts to help the dead, forget the living, yeah. And so in that situation, the business as usual, the INGOs going into Rangoon and signing MOUs, memorandum of understanding with the regime, doesn't work that way. I think there are a lot of outside donor, so-called donor governments that are quietly supporting these informal networks. So that's the type of work that needs to be done. However, I must say categorically, change in Burma is coming from different directions, and helping the local communities is just one form. But the key is, to recognize the political nature of the problem. That's why I think, whether NLD exists as legal party or now defunct, the key is to recognize that there are several thousand political prisoners behind bar who are still inspiring the Burmese younger generation. Also, Suu Kyi remains there. She remains the unrivaled political force in the country. So when change comes, it's going to come from within, but come from within through different channels. One is the community self-help efforts. The other is direct political challenge. Say for instance, an election. If the junta wants to run with the charade, and if the public is able to shoot it down, even if they lost the election, the junta will claim they win. Yes. Yeah? It doesn't matter, whether they formally claim themselves victors of the election process. What matters is if people feel that we can register our discontent and we can reject this process, whatever they say. This massive societal sort of empowerment, like something like what happened in Thailand in 1976. That was watershed here. People, that was crushed in this country. But the generation that went through it are now in leadership position, and they are no longer afraid of the basically ruling establishment here. The same in Thailand. People are no longer afraid.
So you think the same phenomenons will?
Oh, exactly.
Will occur
the thing is that what we have is there is limitation to dialogue and negotiation.
Yeah.
When you have a ruling group that is determined to hang on to power at all costs, you can't. They don't. Put it differently, dictators and dictatorships do not negotiate for their retirement package. They don't retire. Okay. They get thrown out. Whether you look at, like Romania, Ceausescu, or Suharto, or Marcos, or, this is a classic pattern. But that's not to say that that's the only way. But, the communal development is another, and international pressure is another. International help to the right people, the right organizations, another.
So what should we do next to push the envelope further?
Like I said, the key is the empowerment of the people. I'm not throwing this cliche empowerment, but it is very crucial. The key is power, because no government, no political party, can do anything unless they are empowered, and no people can help themselves unless they are empowered.
But across society is very difficult.
Across society is difficult, but it's happening, because if you look at, say, like a Thai-Burmese border, the border area is so porous that the government or the Burmese military cannot effectively seal off. So there are a lot of young Burmese who come over to Thailand and, like a study, for a short period of time, 3 months, 2 months, 6 months, or sometimes a couple of weeks, just basic backpack medical teams, like learning first aid, how to nurse the landmine victims, that kind of thing. Or like come here and take a teacher education course for 3 months. They go back to their different communities, across the country. Yeah. It's not just like dissidents coming here, or allegedly learning to build hand grenades or homemade bombs and then go back and to Burma and do violent things. That's just a tiny bit of what is happening across the border. There are also the outside NGOs, outside activists going to Rangoon and other places, basically with backpack full of cash, yeah, to bypass the Burmese government channels, and then they would just donate them to monasteries, to local people who are, you know, trustworthy, who are doing good work on the ground. And so it's happening. It's not going to be spectacular reform, because unless this regime implodes, we're not going to see spectacular reform the way we saw in, say, like Suharto, Indonesia. In 1997, you know, Suharto had to basically take the retirement, you know, because the circumstances were such that the internal pressure was so great on him, and he had to basically leave, negotiate for his, exit. But in our situation, it's unlikely that Tan Shui would submit himself to that type of exit strategy. You know. One
of the issue also big debates amongst the international community is the roles of Burmese diaspora, because they live all over the world, in America, in Europe, in Australia. What have they done to contribute to whatever developments inside Burma?
Well, one is that the Burmese diaspora is very well connected with Burmese dissidents on the ground, as well as their own community. You know,
they're fragmented too, right?
They are fragmented, and I don't see it as something that is worrisome or worrying, but primarily because, you know, we're ethnically very, very diverse country, and so, like, you know, the downside of it is, like, you know, the ethnic misunderstandings or frictions or tensions that existed back in Burma get brought over to third countries where they settle: USA, Japan, UK, Europe, Australia. So, like, within the diaspora, there are frictions, there are divisions, but that just reflects the nature of the Burmese society, you know, which exists in tensions and fractions.
Well, our time is up. I hope you enjoyed the program, and please don't forget to watch our next series. This is ASEAN TV. I am Kavi Chongkittavorn. Good night. สวัสดีครับ